hustle culture versus building systems and why it's super important, and what we've learned from life insurance agents and agency owners that have been working with us over the past few years. My name is Trey. I'm the owner of Agent Lead Lab. In the past 39 years, we've helped 550 agents issue pay $40,000 a month in commissions. And on this channel, I try to explain the methodologies, behaviors, and principles that these top agents, but also these agency owners are using, and try to give it back to you all as game. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will hop right into the video. All right. So today I try to bring concepts from things I've learned from clients. So I have a agent, just a little backstory to give you all about how we're getting here. All right. So I have an agent who's a part of an agency who wants to build systems, but their emphasis is what I call hustle culture. Now, I'm not upset about it because I think it's dope. I definitely believe in it, but I think that there's an aspect of hustle culture and systems that need to go together. Now, specifically for this agent, he's used to working age leads. Now, I know so depending on what IMO you're working with, depending on what company you're at, and depending on how you were raised as an agent, you learn different ways to prospect. It could be warm market. It could be using their network. Some people do what's called internal consumption. Other individuals do webinars. They do in-person events. They do, then there's another subset that does leads, right? And then there's different type of leads. Some people don't even really understand what leads are because they're just used to talking to people. So they don't rather associate it by targeted demographics and outcomes based on that demographic, i.e. 50 to 85-year-olds looking for final expense versus 50 to 85-year-olds who 59 and a half to and above looking for an annuity. Completely different target outcome, same demographic-ish, right? In terms of age. Now, income levels vary depending on where they're at, right? A homeowner who's 50 to 85 versus a homeowner who's less than 50. There are tons of different variations and ways to prospect clients, whether it's through paid traffic, whether it's through organic content, or whether it's through warm market. But leads is its own subcategory. Now, and this video is particularly for you, or in general for agents. I hear this a lot. So we partner with a variety of different agencies, and typically how we find that agency is through one agent. It's typically not an agency owner, although as we've grown, we are getting more agency owners who just come direct and are like, hey, I want to get this built, but let's just take it for the past 4 years and what it's been as this business has been being built. I have learned that some of these agents, not all of them, some of them come in and they're like the example gentleman that I'm using. So he's used to working age leads, okay? And typically, for those who do not know, age leads can range from $1 to $10. And what their emphasis is, they want to buy, 100 to 500 of them. And their goal is to close as many as possible, obviously, but by any means. And what I mean by that is they'll do policy flips, they'll do policy reviews, there's a whole entire sales structure that's based off of age leads. And a lot of times it can be one that is extremely profitable. I mean, your margins are absolutely insane, but it requires an immense amount of time to put into it. You're typically going to be using things such as like dialers, or you're going to be hand dialing. You're going to be working off of just like Google Sheets and sometimes automations. But here's what happens. I'm using the word hustle culture for the life insurance space because it has its own identity. And that identity is Google Sheets or a CSV file uploaded into a CRM with a dialer that's going to be just hitting the leads as much as possible. And you're just sitting on the phone, typically with a headset, and you're just absolutely ripping. Like you're just going hard for typically 8 to 12, sometimes 13 hours. Right now, once again, extremely profitable. There's agents that are crushing it. They're doing 40, 50, 60, 80. I mean, some people are doing $100,000 a month on their own pen, which is like unheard of even when I was selling as an agent. And for a lot of people that are watching this, they're like, oh my goodness, I make $200,000 in a year. This person makes $100,000 a month. But at the suffice of they're working from 7:30 or 8 until like 11 at night. They're working every single time zone. And bigger than that, they have typically no systems. Now, by system, I do not just mean a CRM. Like that's not a system. I mean like an actual process to which as they scale and go through it, they can start removing themselves from that process. Now, part of me loves this, but this is not a, this is better than the other. This is just hustle culture versus building systems and how I see them in regards to the conversation that we had. So said agent comes to me, bringing back to the initial story. We're having a conversation and he's like, hey man, I'm a little divided. Half of my agency, they want to work with you and run systems. And by systems, in this analogy, I just mean they're working more on fresh leads. They're set up where they're on a said retainer, right? Their agency owner is paying for the retainer and they are getting leads at cost, right? But they understand that that takes a little bit of a ramp up period. It's not just plug and play. I mean, you hop into it and you get leads, but it's not overnight. You buy $1 lead or $2 leads or $3 leads, get 100 of them, spend $300, and boom, you got the leads dripped into your CRM, and you're making money instantaneously, which is that immediate gratification that typically that hustle culture from an agency standpoint brings. Once again, nothing inherently wrong with that, but this is just comparing both of them. Then you look at something where you're building a system where it takes a little bit more time. And the way I look at it is there's a compounding effect. Now, I have a video from about like 2 months ago where I break this down. It's like 45 minutes talking about the different levels of the compounding effect. If you're an agent who is leveraging high intent leads, whether that's through buying through a vendor or that's through generating them on your own. Now, the reason why that's super important is because this, along with another video I have, which breaks down systems, is how systems are inherently built. Because now when you're working aged leads, they're already aged, right? Follow me. So say you pay $5 for a lead, okay? It's already aged. So let's just walk through it. So you pay $5 for a lead. Let's say you get 100 of them, so it's $500. Okay. Let's say that you work those leads. So you worked 100 leads. And at the end of the day, you have, let's call it 4 sales. Okay. So there's really 96 leads that are unsold. Now, let's just say of those 96, let's say there's about 20 disconnected numbers / non-working numbers, which, by the way, anybody that's watching, if you're buying from that company, my company, any company that's buying aged leads, they are probably not going to replace bad numbers, guys. They are extremely affordable. It would make absolutely 0 sense for them to replace it unless it just had infinite amount, which a lot of people do not. Or you're working with like an IMO provider where they're just literally recycling data over and over again. Any other company is typically not going to do that. So just to set your expectations clear, if anybody wants to work with us, we do not replace bad numbers for aged leads. It's just not going to happen. They are priced extremely low and affordable because they're meant to be reps. Or if you are this type of person who wants to do the hustle culture aspect, you already know that coming into it, which is totally fine because you're spending $500 and making 4 sales with the average annual premium, even on the worst day of being final expense of being $1,000. So you're putting 5 in, you're pulling 4,000, which would be really bad. But let's just say you are doing that, $4,000 out, right? Average annual premium, depending on the lead type, and you do the math. So that's the easiest way to think through, bad numbers. So I want to throw that quick caveat. But let's just say you have 20 disconnected numbers. So that means in total you have 76 numbers that are now available to be worked. Okay. Now of those 76 numbers, because they've been called by one other agent, probably multiple agents, honestly, and before you bought them, and they're already 30, 60, 90, 90, 120 days plus old, the people that you've worked, which said we still didn't even include in here, of those 4 sales, you have to remember all the people that you actually booked. So let's just say to get 4 sales, you had to book, let's just call it 12 appointments. Just keep it simple. And then 8 of them showed, right? So 8 people showed, and then you closed 4. So theoretically, you still have you have the minus of that 4, but truthfully, you're probably not going to resell these fully presented leads. Now you may to your agents, but I just wanted to give those numbers because that is important. You could theoretically subtract 12 from that too, which would now put you at 64 total available leads. Now in this scenario, of those 64 total available leads, once again, how many of them just like never responded? You're going to have another in there that are just probably another 20 that do not respond at all. Okay. So now you're going to be left with about 44 leads, truthfully, that can be reworked. But to what extent? Because then we didn't even talk about the people who said they're not interested. Okay. So let's say you have another 20 people that say they're not interested. So now we're at about 24 leads that probably just could pick up, but it would take a lot of dialing. And it's just going to be, a bloodbath to try to get in contact with them. Just being honest. Like you're going to have to really just, because in this analogy, you went hard. And it's probably, these are just guesstimates. So I'm not even saying this is accurate because it's not, it's relative to explain a concept, which is of those 100 leads, there's about, let's just call it 20 to 40, give or take. Let's say I messed some numbers up. There's probably about 20 to 40 leads that you could probably pass down to another agent, but they're already like, they're getting a super 8-ball because you called through them. Somebody else had already called through them. Maybe somebody else had called through them. So they're passed down like 3 times. Now use that same analogy. And let's say you put $500 into fresh leads, okay, which are $10 a piece. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Let me do some better math here. Let's say each lead's $10. You get 100 leads, so $1,000 into fresh leads, okay, and this is like $10 per lead, $10 CPL. And this is going to be more of like a self-gen or in-house system cost. Okay, let's say at another analogy, it's $2,500. Okay, this is going to be $25 CPL. All right. Now here's the thing though. This is going to be the lead vendor cost. And I'm just using final expense here because that's what I've been using across the board because that's what this person is using, and it gets back to my point about the systems. So $2,500 into fresh leads, $1,000 into fresh leads, $10 self-gen, $25 CPL vendor cost. Now, here's the thing. This is at 100 leads. Okay, so just so everybody's clear, 100 leads. This one is also going to be 100 leads. Now, you are going to close way more than 4 deals on 100 fresh leads. Let's just say that for every 25, you're closing 5. Okay, so for every 25, you close 5 leads. Okay, so now you have 25 and 5 times 4, which is 20. So you're gonna have 20 closes. Okay? 20 closes at an average AP. We're gonna use the same numbers of $1,000. Okay, so that's 20K off of this investment. Okay, now this is just safe. Now that would be best case scenario. Let's do like best case. Let's do a little bit more of an average. So instead of them having 5 closes, let's just say they have 3 to be safe. Like let's play those numbers even lower. So 3 closes for every 25 leads, which would then mean that 3 times 4 is 12. So 12 closes, all right, with an average AP, average AP of 12,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 1,000. And that's going to be 12K. All right, and this is going to be more like an average scenario. And then I'm going to give you a worst case scenario. Let's just say that you get 2 closes. 1 would be absolutely insane. You probably just need to go back to the drawing board. So 1 close, that'd be 2 closes, I'm sorry, for every 25. So that's 8 closes. Average AP, it's going to be $1,000. And then now you're going to be looking at $8,000. All right. Now, one could say, well, if I spend 8 and on margins, you're still up. Even in this scenario, you've now made $7,000, so you're higher than the other one. In this scenario, you've now made 8 minus 25, 5.5, right? Yeah, 5,500. So you're still up either $5,500 or $7,000. Either way, so you still have a higher ROI here. Now, for most people, they're like, well, I'd close more than 4. Okay, but we're using, you probably, maybe you close, even if you close, 10, doesn't matter, which would be absolutely insane. Let's say you close 10 of them, you're still not going to write 20K. Like, let's say you're an absolute savage. You close 10 of them, you are still not going to do this. Because if you close 10 of these, right, theoretically, out of the fresh leads, you're going to close more. So say you close 10 AIDS leads. You're like, I'm the best person in the world. Okay, amazing. You close 10 AIDS leads, you spent $500. I get it. Sounds like, makes sense. But you also are not factoring in, hold on, because this is so you also are not factoring in that even with you making that's 10K off of the 100 leads, but what you're not factoring in is the next point, because you're going to make more on the front end, but you're also going to make more on the back end. Now, here's the system part. And this is where it ties into what I had a conversation with this gentleman about. System says that now you have these 100 leads, and let's just say you do close 20 closes, okay? And then let's say that of that 20, that means you have 80 leads left. And let's say that there's just not going to be 20. Let's just say there's 10 disconnected numbers. Just call it that. Obviously, a lead vendor is going to replace that, but let's just say it's self-gen and they're not, and they're just one of those people that won't replace fresh leads. Totally fine. So now you have 70 leads. Okay. In this scenario, you're probably going to have about 10 that are probably non-responsive. Okay. So that means you now with 60 leads. And then let's say of those 20 closes that you had, you talked to 40 people. So theoretically, you would still have another 20. So that's going to put you at 40 leads. Sorry, 40 people spoken to. But here's the difference. You with fresh leads, just because you didn't close them, they're typically busy. You quoted them wrong. You didn't set, there's a lot of factors that would go into this. So if you had 60 leads here and 40 people had been spoken to, outside of those other 20 people are still viable to be reprospected to. So theoretically, you have to keep it at 60 because you can't get rid of those said people. That number would be lower. So I'm just going to use for simple sakes. Let's say it's 5 people. That would just be never a good fit. Okay, so that takes me to 55, but I'll round down and keep it simple. So you have 50 leads left. Now that you have 50 leads, these are 50 leads that can be reworked because they've only been called by you. And you can pass this. Now this person has 50 free leads that you can give to them that they can rework, which are essentially just these leads. And if you use this number right here, let's just say you double up what I just said, you now get to create this result, but do it for free. And you, as the agency owner or upline, now has a way to provide those leads to them. That is a system. Everything I just explained, this is a system. This is just buying leads, working them, and saying, okay, cool. Because most of the time, you're not passing aged leads to your agents. It's they're going to be dude, I'll just buy my own aged leads. I'm not going to call leads that you've called that are now absolutely destroyed after they were already absolutely destroyed. You'd rather give them fresh leads that maybe you just didn't get in contact and keep it moving. And the crazy thing is, this is going to compound because this is per week. So if you do that week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, that's 4 weeks of 50 leads. That's 200 leads at the end of the month. So you just double these numbers that you just did right here. So if you're getting 4 sales for every 100 leads, because that, whatever, say worst case scenario, you're getting 2, that agent is starting with 200 fresh leads, closing 4 deals off those first 200 leads with an average annual premium of 4, and you gave him 2 for free. So he's walking into the business with $4,000 in his pocket rather than walking into the business, dropping $500, buying these leads, being I don't know, maybe making 2 sales, making his money back, and then maybe getting a charge back and being I'm cooked. Now, you can obviously do better than this when you do the hustle aspect of it, but it requires time and people get fatigued because they get tired. Because at first it's I work 12 hours a day. And it's you're working 12 hours a day, but you're not building anything. Respectfully, you're just working 12 hours a day and you're making a lot of money, which is great. I rock with it. And I like the work ethic, but it's not leading you anywhere. In this scenario, obviously, number one, you're building a team and you can keep building a team, but you're starting your team off more profitable, which then allows them to reinvest in more systems that then buy them time back. So it all ties together. But I had to explain this to you because this is the conversation that I had with him. And then the next step that we took was, okay, let's find a way to provide you and your group with the systems that part of the other group. Because this agency I work with, they are very divided. Half of them want to buy leads and just spend $1, $2, $3, and then the other half are hey, I want to actually get fresh. I want to put myself on a recurring. I want to create, a process. And once again, I'm not here to say there's one that's right or one that's wrong, but I am here to say that there is a time and place for each. And depending on where you are at as an agent, you may be thinking and feeling man, I'm on a team that's super heavy on systems, but we don't know. Because in my opinion, just my opinion from what I've seen, I think the best way to start as an individual agent is to start with the hustle culture because it teaches you a lot of things. You overcome objections, you get your teeth absolutely kicked in. So you learn all right, this is what it feels like to suck. And that's fine because you should learn that. If you don't learn that, then it's you just buy fresh leads. You think you get one objection, you're oh my goodness, I paid $20 for a lead. It's okay, that's fine. So I'd rather you pay $5, $4, $3, $2, $8, buy a few hundred leads and, work them and stumble across some W's and understand that you're going to get your teeth kicked in. So when you buy the fresh leads, you can have obviously a much higher closing rate, but also when you come to your agents, you can now take those leads and then redistribute them to them. In a perfect world though, what would really happen is that the first agent would master skill of working these aged leads, get really good, start investing, spending the money. His margins aren't as good. Help his agents continue to grow, and then you just start creating a filtered pipeline where the first person who started it now has this domino effect that rains down, five downlines down the line, no pun intended, and is they're able to scale. That is like kind of like the perfect scenario. Now there are some agencies, I won't name any names, that are doing that, and I respect it. Like I think it's absolutely dope. I work with some of their agents. I'm not like their guy, but from the outside looking in, I love the way that they have things set up. And from what I know from speaking to individuals, it's brilliant. I think that the sequence of treating it like a business, because that's what you would do. And I use, anybody that, I guess a lot of other lead companies don't, but we have a sales team in a way, and like they don't pay for their leads. That would be kind of weird, right? Like they still get commission, but I don't make them pay for the leads. Now, granted, I understand it's very different, but when you bring somebody into the business, the one thing I did learn from being an agent, and I learned it quick, was the number one goal when you tell somebody that you're gonna be their upline or you're gonna be their mentor or whatever word you want to use, is to get them paid within that first 24 to 48 hours. Like preferably within the first 24 hours. Get that initial, like, okay, we're good. That's settling. It literally be like playing a football game or playing a sporting event, and every single person, no matter how good you are, relatively speaking, from what I know, gets some level of like butterflies. It's not that they're like not confident. It's just a part of it. Like you're about to play a game or do an event or whatever it is, but you still know like, oh, I'm about to go crush it. So but when you're starting a new job, you have that same feeling. Yeah, that same feeling. Like you don't really know what success in that job looks like until you hit it. So you want to try to get them to that success as fast as possible. Well, the same thing applies for this. If you're telling them, if you don't have a process that they can just tap into, and you're like, yeah, just buy this and you'll figure it out. I think that's great to an extent when they start, but as they scale and they look for that next step, that's a bad word. There is a way, I'll say that, in which you can help them ladder up without, falling on their face. And I've seen a lot of agencies do it very successfully. And I hope this helps, because I know there's a lot of agents who are battling with this who won't say anything because they're like, well, this is the way that my team does it. But I see a clear way. I mean, there are a lot more people than you think that look contrarian to what is already established. And their desire is just to have a more efficient way as they grow. They're not anti from the beginning, because I firmly believe get your teeth kicked in. That's my first, like, buy these, get your teeth kicked in, and learn the skill by doing it in the most affordable manner, right? It's just like training. I'm not going to spend all this money to train theoretically to just get the basics. Now, when I get somewhat good, I'm going to pay for an elite trainer, i.e. buy better leads, etc., because now I'm prepared for my craft. And you can use that metaphor however you see. But there are options, right? And to me, these are the two more prominent that people know about. Hustle culture, i.e. dial, buy the most cheap leads, make the highest ROI, and just work until your face is blue. And then building a system, or creating a system where it maximizes efficiency. Now, I've seen on both ends. I leaned heavily on the hustle culture, but there's also another side, which for sake of time, I'll go over briefly, where if you are putting a lot of time, effort, and energy into systems, but you do not have the grit, determination, and consistency, also kind of the perspective of what it takes to work life insurance leads, I really think that it's necessary to remove some of those barriers until you've gotten that firm foundation, because systems without having a little bit of that hustle, or not a little bit, I think, a large portion of that hustle culture built inherently inside of your organization, is hurting you more than it's helping you. I see you an agent that called me on, was it like Friday or Saturday. I was about to go get something to eat and go to the mall with my wife. The guy calls me. I'm sitting here like finishing up my day, or he texts me. He's like, "Hey man, blah blah blah. the leads aren't picking up. And people don't know in like our organization, we do things very different. Like we're not like, oh man, like it'll be okay. Like everybody here is an agent. It's like, okay, cool, yeah. Give me your sheet. I'm just gonna call the people. Like we're not gonna wait. So hit Loom, just like you guys are watching, called the leads, literally second person, booked an appointment, sent it to him. I was like, hey, respectfully, right? Like been doing this for a pretty decent amount of time. We have a lot of people who've made a lot of money, but also I followed our blueprint and it's worked for them. And at the end of the day, you're like, oh, well, my team's calling. And I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but I just picked up my cell phone, stopped what I was doing, and I called your lead and booked an appointment. So you can tell me whatever you want to tell me. But at the end of the day, I just recorded this so you could see that they must not be doing something right. They're lying to you, or maybe your system's not tracking it properly, or they're just lazy and they're trying to rely on a CRM dialer, which I have too. But sometimes you just got to pick up the phone and get busy. Like there's no more like, oh yeah, I'm going to use a system. Sometimes it requires you to say like these leads aren't picking up. So I mean, why not just try? I ended up that kind of baffled me. Like it was like, okay, they're not picking up when I'm calling this. Like, is it the IP? There's tons of things that can happen with like dialers and systems that people don't realize. But when you pick up your cell phone, right? Like it's gonna cause it's probably popping up as spam. There's a million different things. You know, I have spam protection on. Okay, who cares? They're not picking up. So find a different way to do it. I think that's one thing that hustle culture does really well. That from a life insurance standpoint is by any means necessary, we're gonna get this done. Like they're just used to calling off of Google Sheets and should have them call off their cell phone. They don't even have. Like I remember we had burner numbers that we were buying. I talk to these people now. They're like, yeah, I just rip off my cell phone. The guy called me the other day. He was like, yeah, you know what? He called me. I was like, who is this? He was like, yeah, so and so. I'm like, what's up, bro? He's like, yeah, bro, my other number. I was just banging the phone, so they blocked it. I'm like, dog, I'm like, this is your actual cell phone, bro. You're tripping. Like, get it? So, there's an aspect of it, on both ends. But I think that having both is like the perfect way to go. I don't think that you got to be all in on this or all in on this. I think having a perspective of both is going to be super helpful. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you're an individual agent and you're looking for leads, you can go to leadlabcrm.com. We have leads from $1 to $55. We are coming out with new leads, by the way. So anybody that stays tuned, any of my annuity, advanced market people, we're going to be coming out with something real cool. We are working on that currently. And if you're an agency owner, you're doing anywhere from $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 plus as an agency, and you have anywhere between 2 to 5 agents consistently writing $30,000 to $40,000 a month. You can look into our partnership packages. We have 2 versions. I'll be transparent. We're leaning more heavily onto our partnership than our Apex. For that's another video for a whole nother time. But Apex, for some people that are interested, starts at $5,000. It goes from $5,000 to $10,000 a month. You're paying to hire us. Don't overcomplicate it. We're going to run your ads. We're going to build your go at level. No, we're not going to build you a sub account. All your agents will get accounts. It's really straightforward. You are hiring us. You're paying basically $60,000 or $120,000 a year to hire us to run ads and make your agency more money. Pretty simple. I think that's fair if you're doing $600K. We have probably of our 4 or 5 clients, most of them are doing $600K plus, and we've helped 4 people get to $1 million. So that's how we did 10% of that, right? $1 million, 10% of that is 100,000. So it's 120,000. 10 times 12 is 120,000. $10,000 a month. That's excluding ad spend, right? 5,000, 5 times 6, 60,000. Sorry, 5 times 12 is 60,000. 10% of 600,000. So that's how we come up with our rates, right? We're not just spitballing numbers out here. So we can help you get there. I know how to help you get there. But more importantly, our goal is if you want to partner with us, we don't charge anything. You do have to buy leads. I have to make sure that you're good, and we will communicate. And then from there, we can actually grandfather some rates and give you guys some pretty cool exclusive setups. So as always, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.